Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jen Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. This week, we're talking about corn. So even as I say it out loud, do you know what I'm thinking of? Do you guys remember that viral video with the little boy who was like, corn? I love corn. Have you ever seen something so beautiful? Right? So now that everyone's going to think about that for the next 10 minutes. So corn is a tricky one. It's kind of controversial because it can be both a vegetable and a grain.
Okay.
And some say that it offers a lot of nutrition, while others say that it should be avoided. And the question I always get is also, why do I see it in my poop? Right? So
right here.
Right? All right. So let's dig into it. So technically, corn is a vegetable, a starchy vegetable, but a vegetable. And it's also a cereal grain.
Okay.
So sweet corn, like we think like corn on the cob or a can of corn, that's considered a vegetable. The dry seeds that are like used for popcorn or are used to be turned into like cornmeal are considered a grain.
Okay.
So it's not new. Corn's been around for like, some things say 9,000 years, some things say 10,000 years, whatever, not new is the answer, right? And a lot of like ancient civilizations, especially in Mexico, it was a primary source of food.
Yeah, for sure.
Today, corn is the leading cereal crop in the world. And most of the corn grown in this country, or really in the world, is genetically modified. So we're going to come back to that in a second. But I just want to give you another little fun fact. So potentially, even more than it's used for cereal, corn is used for animal feed and fuel. So 40% of the corn grown in the US is used for fuel. And 60 to 70% of the corn worldwide is produced to feed animals.
So no matter what, we're getting some corn. If we eat
Correct.
meat, wow, yeah.
Unless it's organic grass-fed beef.
Grass-fed, okay.
Right, yeah.
Well, it brings up this situation that I happened at work one day. I was working and this counselor was heating up his meal and he had corn on his meal. And one of the RAs came in and said, "Why are you eating that?" and insulted the man's dish to the point that they really got into it. Like it was about to be like a thing over some corn and, hey, how dare you talk about my food, this, that, the third. What is the controversy about corn? Should we be eating it or should we not? Or it seems like we've already answered it. No matter what you do, you're going to be eating some corn.
Right. So we're going to get into the GMO thing. We're going to get into the nutrition side. And then I think preface it by saying there are 4 types of corn, right? So there's like the sweet corn that we typically think of, right? Corn on the cob. There's the corn used for popcorn, which we did a nutrition nugget on.
Yes.
There's flint or Indian corn, which is harder. So this is the one that comes in like those colors like red, blue, black, right?
Okay.
It's sometimes white also, but typically comes in the colors. And then the 4th kind of corn is called dent corn. So it's also white or yellow like sweet corn, but each kernel has like a dent in the top of it. And that's what's mostly used for animal feed. So it's not like the animals are eating the sweet corn that we would otherwise be eating. Like they're different types of corn. Dent corn is sometimes used to become processed foods like tortilla chips and grits. So, still processed foods, not our best source. Before we do the nutrition stuff, let's talk about the GMO thing. Okay, so GMO stands for genetically modified organism. Today, you'll also hear things referred to as BE or bioengineered. Basically the same thing. But corn is one of the most genetically modified crops in the world.
Wow.
So back in 2016, so not yesterday, in 2016, 92% of the corn grown in the US was genetically modified.
92%?
92%.
Is that to speed up how fast corn is being grown?
No. They're typically modified for a couple reasons. They're modified so that bugs don't eat them. They're modified to not die when chemicals are sprayed on them so that like they can use the chemicals to kill the bugs but not kill the crop. Or like try to make sure that they don't end up like diseased or whatever. And then sometimes they can be modified to grow more. But those are like the three main reasons for genetically modified crops. The thing that always strikes me about it, and this goes back to like years and years ago, when genetically modified stuff was first coming out, what they were seeing is that the bugs wouldn't eat it. And I'm sitting here going, the fly can figure out that that's not food. But we as humans go, it looks like corn.
Okay.
It must be corn.
Give it to me.
So like, maybe we should, take a hint from the pests, right? Like if they can say this isn't food, maybe we take our cue for them.
Why is it going to go after your poop, but not go after the corn? That says a lot. That says a lot.
Right? And I just think we don't have a ton of research on what happens, when people eat genetically modified foods. What we do know in the little research that exists in some animals, that GMO corn has toxic effects on the liver, kidneys, and other organs in animals. So here's the thing. I mean, again, my little suspicious hat says big food is probably spending a lot of money to make sure that we don't know more about what happens. There is more research on glyphosate. So glyphosate is the main ingredient in Roundup. Roundup is
the weed killer?
Yeah. And so a lot of GMO seeds are made to be what's called Roundup ready. So they will withstand being sprayed with Roundup and survive. So we did an episode about ancient wheat versus modern wheat and a lot on glyphosate. So for more on that, people can go back to that episode. But that has more research. But long story short, if you're going to buy corn, look for organic, non-GMO corn. So then we go to the nutrition.
What's cup of nutrition?
Right? I know you're like, okay, lay it out there. So 1 cup of sweet corn, 177 calories, 41 grams of carbs, 5.4 grams of protein, 2.1 grams of fat, 4.6 grams of fiber. Vitamins, we have vitamin C, vitamin A, thiamine, which is B1, folate, which is B9, and then some magnesium and potassium. So macronutrients, meaning the nutrients that we need in large quantities, so protein, carbs, and fat. 5.4 grams of protein is less than an ounce, but it's not terrible. We're generally not looking for protein from our corn. 4.6 grams of fiber is not bad, right? The challenge, though, is that our net carb is 36, right? And that's even rounding up the fiber to 5. So that's like 4 times what we want our net carbs to be, right? So I think this is why people would say, oh, not so great. But that's eating a whole cup of corn.
Yeah.
What's the serving size? That's what I've learned.
5 kernels.
Right. Well, no, for some people right now, knowing that that's what's in a cup, then we choose our serving size, right? So are we going to have a half a cup, right? And then our net carb is more around 18, right? And then we can balance that with protein and fiber from other places and some quality fat, maybe, or like if we think about it as like 1 ear of corn, 1 ear of corn is 19 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber. So, you can balance it and just think about how much you're having when you have it and what's the quality of the corn that you're having.
Okay.
Right? Corn can also be processed into refined oils, syrups, and things like that. Those are blanket statement to be minimized, if not avoided.
Makes sense.
Okay. We did a nutrition nugget on ultra processed food. You can go back to that one for why I would say, let's just avoid that one. So there was one interesting study from Harvard over 24 years. They looked at 133,468 adults, found that each additional daily serving of corn was associated with a 2-pound weight gain per 4-year interval. Potatoes, peas, and other starchy vegetables did not contribute to as much weight gain.
Stop it.
Okay. Now, correlation is not causation, right? We don't know. It's also possible. Again, what was the quality of the corn, right? Like we can get into some of the nitty gritty, But I think this is why people say, hey, hold up, maybe not, right? We know we don't want corn as a processed food. And if we're going to have it, we want organic, non-GMO, like a cob at a time kind of a thing, right? We're going to watch our portions.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the micronutrients, so the vitamins and minerals, color matters, right? So the color of our foods indicate the kinds of phytonutrients and antioxidants that we're going to get. So yellow and white corn is going to have fewer antioxidants than the blue and the purple corn.
Wow.
So the kinds of antioxidants that are in corn, mostly lutein and zeaxanthin, both of which support eye health. So there's some research that it may prevent, well, this research is on lutein and zeaxanthin, not necessarily on corn, but may prevent cataracts and age-related macular degeneration. So, with some of the fiber that's in corn, like you'll hear people talk about digestive health, I would argue that in terms of efficiency, there are other foods that are more efficient than corn at getting us fiber. Like a cup of raspberries has 9 grams of fiber. So we can do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's say we want to have it, right? Again, organic, non-GMO, smaller quantities. Maybe you can find some of the colored varieties so that you're getting more antioxidants. Again, keeping it cost effective, go for organic frozen or canned even. Frozen's generally even better. And then, look at what you're putting on it too. Throw some corn on the cob on the grill and enjoy. It sounds delicious. Once you cook it, then you can cut it off the cob and throw it on a salad, throw it in a soup, add it to another veggie side to have a little sweetness or different texture in there without necessarily, diving headfirst into a vat of corn.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the colored corn. I don't see that too often. Every now and then you'll see it.
It's used for decorations.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Because it's really hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the corn that you find now, even the canned corn and even some of the frozen corn, is yellow or white, right?
Yeah.
Yellow or white. That's
exactly. Well, and that's the sweet corn. The other kinds, it's a different kind of corn.
Yeah.
So, I have to answer the question, why do we see it in our poop, right? So,
yes.
Okay. So corn has a shell made of cellulose. The human body cannot break down cellulose. So what happens is the body can access and digest what's inside it.
The pulp.
Right. But the shell, the outer part, the casing, is what we're seeing in our stool.
Really?
So there you have it. Corn.
So it's not necessarily the whole corn there.
Right.
But wait a minute, is the cellulose bad for you then? Is it because your body can't digest it, or is it just it
exits whole? It's not, it's kind of neither here nor there. And it depends.
Did you say it exits the hole or exits whole?
It exits whole.
Okay. Let's be clear. Just want to be clear.
Oh my goodness.
Touche, right?
Yeah, your tushy.
Right. That too. So awesome. There you have it, guys. The scoop on corn.
All right. So I feel like candy corn is on the menu, right? We can go with that one then.
Let's come back at Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We actually did a nutrition nugget on candy corn. I can't remember what year it was, but one year around Halloween, we did a candy corn nutrition nugget.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jen Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jen Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website, asaladwithasideofries.com. You can also click the merch tab over there, get to the merch, or click the contact tab and send a message because I want to hear your ideas, your takeaways, what questions you have. Thank you again to the gentlemen of the My 5 Cents podcast for joining me for this one. Tell everybody where to connect with you, how to hear your show, all the things.
No, thank you, Jen, for having us. You can find us on all the streaming platforms. Once again, you can find us with Jen in episode 38 at the My 5 Cents podcast. You can go ahead and follow us on Instagram and all the social media. We are the My 5 Cents podcast. Listen in to join in on the conversation.
Awesome. Of course, if you're not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries to show your support for this podcast, this community, but most importantly, support your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the tomato salad with grilled corn, feta, and hazelnuts, and the article 5 health tips for your holiday weekend. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.